The chapel at the Fort Hope VA Hospital was almost always empty. Almost every Thursday, like clockwork, Sergeant Marcus Cole would take a seat in the back pew. He'd just sit there, staring at the stained glass window as if the colored light held answers he couldn't find anywhere else. He hadn't spoken a single word to anyone in 9 months. Not since Kandahar. Not since the ambush. Not since he carried Private Eli Reverine, 19 years old, wide-eyed and terrified 3 miles through a storm of gunfire, only for Eli to die in his arms. The kid's last words were a whisper. "Tell my mom I tried." Marcus never did. Weighed down by a shame he couldn't shake, he vanished after his discharge. He drifted, he drank, he did everything he could to drown the guilt. Then, one rainy Thursday, the chapel doors creaked open. A woman walked in. She had streaks of gray in her hair, and her eyes held a kind of grief that was too deep for tears. She lit a candle, then placed a small photo on the altar. It was Eli, grinning in his uniform. Marcus's heart stopped. He knew her instantly. It was Eli's mother. As his stomach clenched into a knot, he turned to leave, desperate to escape. But it was too late. She saw him, and then she said the one word that shattered his 9 months of silence. "Sergeant." He froze, his back still to her. "I've been looking for you," she said, her voice trembling, but somehow steady. For 2 years, Marcus couldn't find his voice. The words were stuck somewhere in his throat, buried under layers of guilt. "I'm sorry," he finally choked out, the words raw and broken. "I should have Maria cut him off gently." "You don't owe me any apologies," she said. "I just needed to know, did he suffer?" Marcus slowly turned and shook his head. No, he was brave. Right to the very end. She nodded, and finally, the tears she'd held back for so long began to fall. "He wrote about you in his letters," she said, a faint smile touching her lips. "He said you shared your rations with him, taught him how to shave properly. He called you old man even though you were only 24. A sob escaped Marcus's chest, a sound he didn't know he was still capable of making. Maria walked over to him, her steps soft on the stone floor. She pressed something cold and metallic into his palm. He looked down. It was a dog tag, but it wasn't Eli's. It was his own, engraved with his name, M. Cole, to NDBN, Semper Fi. "I found it in his pocket," she explained softly. "He kept it, like a good luck charm. That was it." That was the moment Marcus broke. He fell to his knees right there in the middle of the chapel, weeping like a lost boy. Maria knelt beside him, her presence a quiet anchor in his storm. "You carried him out," she whispered. "You honored him. That's all a mother could ever ask for." And then she did the one thing he never expected. She hugged him, and in that embrace, held by the mother of the boy he thought he'd failed, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years. Forgiveness. From that day on, Marcus still came to the chapel, but he wasn't hiding anymore. He was there to remember, and Maria met him there every week. They shared stories. They talked about Eli's terrible cooking, his irrational fear of spiders, and his dream of becoming a teacher. Slowly, Marcus started talking to other vets at the hospital. He started volunteering. Maria, inspired, began a support group for Gold Star families. A year after Eli's death, they stood together at his grave. Marcus placed a carefully folded flag on the headstone. Maria placed a new photo next to it, a picture of her and Marcus, with Eli's dog tag held between them. "No son of mine is ever forgotten," she said, her voice full of love, "and no brother either, because sometimes the families we lose leave us with new ones to hold on to, and in that quiet space between grief and grace, love doesn't ask for permission. It just shows up, and it calls you by name." Thanks for watching.